In September 2002, the body of a 13-year-old schoolgirl was found in woodland in rural Hampshire. Milly Dowler, the victim in question, had disappeared 6 months earlier from a bus stop just outside Walton-on-Thames train station, South London. In February 2003, 19-year-old Marsha McDonnell died in hospital 2 days after suffering a severe beating to the head with a blunt instrument. It happened after she got off a bus in Hampton, South London, where she lived. Amelie Delagrange, a 22-year-old French student visiting England, was murdered in the same way as Marsha. She was found with her head injuries on the 19th of August 2004 at Twickenham Green, South London. Milly, Marsha and Amelie were murdered by wheel-clamping business owner and lifelong woman beater, LEVI Bellfield. I'm Gina, this is Dark and Dishonest, and you are welcome. Born in May 1968 to a Romany gypsy family in Isleworth, South London, Bellfield has 2 brothers and 2 sisters. When he was 10, his father's life was claimed by leukemia. But the closeness that developed between Bellfield and his mother as a result of this event was disturbingly unusual, many agree.
She wiped his bottom until he was 12. He was a mummy's boy in every sense.
He was still sleeping in her bed when he was 16. You know, and even his mum told me one day, she said, "Oh no, Levi if he stays here, he always sleeps in my bed." I think, hang on a minute, he's in his 30s.
As a schoolboy, Bellfield was a weakling. At 16, he stood less than 5 foot tall, and yet this wasn't the only reason why a number of the girls at his West London secondary school were forever taunting him. At some point in his growing up, Levi had experimented with sex with a rabbit. It was a pet belonging to one of his sisters. After somehow copulating with the creature, Bellfield broke its neck. Bugsy was one of the jibes directed at Bellfield by some of the girls at his school. I have no idea how they found out about Bellfield's rabbit sex. I also don't know whether at this point Bellfield was using his father's surname, Rabbit. Bellfield is the surname of Levi Bellfield's mother. Today, however, Bellfield uses the name Yusuf Rahim, but I'll keep referring to this individual as Bellfield. If any of the boys at Bellfield School bullied him, this appears to be undocumented. Girls didn't fancy Bellfield, far from it. In his late teens, Bellfield supplemented the weightlifting regime that he embarked on in order to bulk up with steroids.
And in his later years, he took steroids, and in fact, the first time I ever saw him, his arm muscles, his leg muscles were absolutely huge, and his neck was bulked up beyond all belief.
He went on a serious weightlifting steroid course, transforming himself from a small, fairly skinny boy into a 20-stone man with a 19.5-inch neck.
To go with Bellfield's fledgling loathing of women, then, was the aggressive and violent behaviour that his bodybuilding steroids triggered.
Well, without a doubt, steroid use and abuse can certainly result in aggression. They call it roid rage. Coupled with his own background of deep inadequacy and anger and hatred that was just enormous within him.
Bellfield was soon, I believe, to feel vastly proud of himself. His new look was catching some women's eye. Bellfield's 4 subsequent marriages, which spawned no fewer than 11 children, did not, regrettably enough, change his underlying attitude towards women. Mother to 2 of Bellfield's children, Jo Collins was in a relationship with Bellfield from 1995 to 1997. She names a particular category of women that would send her former partner into a rage.
When you find a magazine and only the blondes' faces are slashed, and you know he goes mad. And when I confronted him about it, I mean I really got a good hiding that day, and he told me straight, he said, "I hate blondes. They're all f***ing slags and they should die." And I don't know if it's because his mum's got jet black hair and she is the matriarch of the family and she rules with an iron rod, or somewhere along the line blondes really hurt him or something like that.
Milly Dowler, Marsha McDonnell and Amelie Delagrange had something other than hair colour in common too.
He just loathed women, and for some reason he loathed women who were blonde. And on top of that, he seemed to loathe women who were young.
Bellfield would never stand trial for the violent offences that he allegedly committed against young girls. In every rape that he carried out, he was careful not to leave his DNA behind, and how he managed to do so I can't say.
Bellfield's loathing of young girls doesn't stop him wanting to have sex with them. An ambition he can pursue in a job he gets at a nightclub.
He became a bouncer, I think, because it was a regular supply of eager young schoolgirls who would line up outside the clubs he was the bouncer at.
He seemed to take it as a badge of honour that he was targeting girls who were legally beneath the age of consent. He was someone who kept a mattress in the back of one of his vans, whereby he would sometimes ply girls with ketamine, a very powerful tranquilizing drug, or sometimes cocaine. He would sell them, and sometimes in exchange for sexual favours, or sometimes, even more menacingly, he would actually abuse them after they were high on drugs.
Due to their unreliable memory of their respective interaction with Bellfield, owing invariably to the influence of drugs, the many girls who between 1995 and 2001 brought official allegations of rape against Bellfield got nowhere. The girls were all aged between 14 and 17. Detective Chief Inspector Colin Sutton of the Metropolitan Police affirms that Bellfield sees himself as God's gift to women. He elaborates that Bellfield has a massive ego to feed. Bellfield had developed the audacious habit of asking women, young or old, night or day, however publicly, for sex, and hollering to women loudly and rudely from his van was often how he did it.
Levi Bellfield was a menace to women. As they drove around in a white van, he would lean out the window, shout, leer at other women. He would wolf whistle, and he would be generally quite unpleasant.
When a woman who found Bellfield physically approaching her rejected his advances, she stood to pay for it. Shortly after Bellfield takes up residence at a flat in Walton-on-Thames, a 13-year-old schoolgirl by the name of Milly Dowler goes missing.
Milly Dowler went to school but decided to take the train home. She walked out of the station, turned right, north to walk home to her parents' house.
She fitted his obsession.
At some moment between 4 and 4 on that March afternoon in 2002, she disappeared into thin air.
Having covered his tracks, namely by keeping his phone switched off and by using someone else's car when he abducted, raped and murdered Milly, Bellfield was able to escape justice for her murder for nearly a decade. Marsha McDonnell was about 40 yards away from her front door when, in February 2003, Bellfield, who had been on the prowl for a victim in his van, hit her on the head repeatedly with a hammer, causing the multiple skull fractures and brain damage that she succumbed to 2 days later in hospital.
He was driving along around bus stops where people would get off, so he would perhaps be able to see them when they're on the bus, spy somebody who was on their own, and then when they got off, drive alongside them for a bit before getting out and attacking them.
It would once again be years before this murder was traced back to Bellfield. Bellfield's access to a range of cars coming from his car business is what, in the case of his first 2 murders, enabled him to get away with his crimes for so long. After miraculously surviving and recovering from a hit-and-run traffic incident in which she'd been deliberately run over twice, Kate Sheedy, who at the time of her 2004 attack was aged 18, described her attacker to the police. She also mentioned the blacked out windows and the broken wing mirror that his white people carrier vehicle had. Kate had rejected Bellfield's request for sex, and she had almost paid for it with her life. Bellfield was out on bail when, in August 2004, he beat Amelie Delagrange on the head over and over. He again used a hammer. On this occasion, however, the car that he had used to get to his victim is what, months later, enabled police to trace Amelie's murder back to him. Bellfield is at Frankland Prison in County Durham, serving not 1 whole life order, but 2. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.